Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
It's a glorious late spring day. We've officially, in the Chamberlain household, hit the every week baby appointments. So the daughter will be here within 4 weeks.
Yep.
I'm elated. We still don't have a name, so I don't know how we hit home runs on our boys' names. We're pretty sure. Now, we don't have anything cool like passing down our family name like you. Like, that's just like you knew what his name was going to be.
100 years in the making. Yeah.
Yeah. But our two boys, like, great names. Great names. Have no idea what to name a girl. So we narrowed it down to 10 names, and I'm pretty sure it's the name it isn't on that list.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or maybe it is. Anyway, that's what's going on.
Can always change it.
That's true. That'd be weird.
One of my best friends changed his name. He didn't change his name. When he was a year old, they were just like, they were using his middle name, and they were like, we're just going to change the middle name to the first name and get like a family name in for the middle name. And
that's the way.
So changed it.
Love it. And you guys have ideas, you just let me know. Power minute here, guys. So tonight we're talking about preparing for your week one opponent. And I know this is coming out in June. I just thought, like, by the time this comes out, I may have a daughter. That's crazy.
You might.
It's wild. We know it's a little early in the summer, but like, it's never really too early to turn your week one opponent. But all the stuff that we say you got to wait on before you start, it's all past, right? Some like spring ball's over. All those stupid spring sports are out of the way. Your 7-on-7 is getting started, but that should have a plan for week one in mind. Like, you should be building towards something. You're probably starting Summer Pride now or have been here recently. And I don't know how much everybody gets to teach football during their Summer Pride, but, you know, we get a little bit of drill. So your drills need to mimic the game. We talked about that last week. So, you know, all these things should be a variation of leading into week one. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Beginning with the end in mind, building your game plan for week one, and then practicing so your players can execute in week one. Last week, we talked about defensive drills and drills in general, just building out drills and how to use that one-on-one game to create a thing that people learn, right? And then your kids get better at what they do. Next week will be a pretty fun one. We're talking priorities pyramid. If you guys are JDFB members, you've probably looked at Joe's packet, his head coach packet, looked at the priorities pyramid and understand what it is. If not, that's a really good one to get in on because it kind of helps you think about, I'm going to say culture here, and I know it's the buzzword, but think about building a program the right way. And sometimes you've got to flip that upside down because a lot of times it's the team. Well, the team is important, but there's more important things, right? So anyway, jump in next week talking about priorities pyramid. It is Summer Pride season, early mornings, attendance sheets, competition drills, trying to build toughness before the pads ever get on. If this podcast is part of your summer grind, send it out to another coach who's getting after right now too. I've had so many messages recently of guys who are like, all right, it's football time. I got to catch up on podcasts. Ben Shelburn's a big listener of both podcasts, but he loves our stuff. He and I have had many on the side conversations and just Zoom calls and whatnot. And he was like, I haven't. And I'm like, oh, brother, you got a whole roller coaster. It's a whole saga. So it's been a wild spring. But if you know, send the podcast off. Let guys get into what you're getting into. So let's pay the bills here, Joe, and then we'll get on our way.
Yeah, as we go into talking about week one preparation, the reason we're doing it now is you really can't build your install plans. And I always encourage coaches to go through the install as much as possible, whether it's spring or whether it's summer, beforehand. So to get all of that ready, you've got to be putting practice plans together now, and you can't put together practice plans without knowing where this thing is going, which is week one and obviously beyond. And the tool that we have for putting that together is we have our practice plan templates that you can download. It's a basic in-season week-long template that we use for the 90-minute practice plan. You can obviously edit it, add time in, and it's the same structure, but it's a very detailed practice plan, includes really important things like what we're installing, but also the focus for each position group, as we've talked about here when we talked about our levers podcast a few weeks ago. You can get those by going to joedanielfootball.com/practice plan, I believe. I just realized that I'm not 100% positive on that, so let me check. joedanielfootball.com/practice. Made it even easier. Go to joedanielfootball.com/practice. You can get the practice plan blueprints there, and it's free download. So go check those out. joedanielfootball.com/practice.
I love it. And it looks good.
It does look good.
I love it. Awesome. Athletic Speed Movement. It is still great time. Okay. I know we've gotten into summer pride now. We have a wonderful time for you guys to jump into Athletic Speed Movement. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com, get signed up. It is a 12-week program, 2 times a week. You're talking about like, this can be essentially your warm-up a lot of days, right? You get your light little warm-up out of the way, get their hearts racing, and go practice some speed early. So you're not trying to fit it in at the end. Just get it knocked out. Del Basquet is the creator of the program. He's been at it since the late 70s. All he's done is create like 6 all-pro NFL players. He's created numerous guys, helped them get to the next level, which is my favorite part of the program is, look, making kids go fast is awesome, right? And numbers and getting his 4.5s down to a 4.4, his 5.2 is down to a 4.8. All that's great. And I know coaches, that's what they want. But the biggest thing that I learned talking to Dell was how many people that he eradicated their ceiling, right? We talked with multiple people, but in particular, the guy out of Boise State who was a high school player that should not have gone on. And he gets with Dale, gets hooked up. Now he's at Boise State. Beats my beloved Sooners in that stupid Fiesta Bowl, and then goes on and is sitting next to Adrian Peterson in Vikings minicamp, right? So it's like that kid wasn't supposed to play above his high school level, but he got with Del Basquet and it got him to the NFL. So it eradicates ceilings for kids. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com and sign up today. Sweet. Let's get it started here, Joe. When you start planning week 1, and I know I kind of opened with some of this, it isn't the Monday or the Sunday before week 1 we're game planning that opponent. I'll be 100% honest with you. My huddle for the team that I was at for a few minutes had every single game from every opponent last year, just to get us an idea so we could look and see what their identity was last year. That's going to change. So your game planning really probably started in, I would hope, February or March. Hopefully you took some time away from football and just got out until clinic season. But you still have to see who's going to be on your team, which kids have grown up since last year, what maturity looks like, who's been in the weight room. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on your end, but you can't just willy-nilly start this thing at the beginning. Well, let's just go install one formation and one play and see what happens. That's like a terrible plan. You definitely can't wait until that Sunday to get their film that they're going to send you of team camp and try to game plan them, right? You need to start doing things now. For not all of us, and Joe, you're in a place where this isn't true, but a lot of us have these 1 to 3 preseason almost games that count on your record, but not in your district or not in your conference or whatever that looks like. Some of you are cool like Joe and everything is playoff points, and that's really cool, kind of wild. That's a whole new thing to have to conquer. But we get into this idea of beginning with the end in mind, which is how you should do everything, honestly, right? But that starts now. So where do I want to be when I get the butterflies and the ball's in the air because the kickoff just happened in week 1? What does it take to get there? Building out that plan.
Yeah, one of the things I think is so important about this is, in week 1, in general, you shouldn't be too complicated. I mean, we see it all the way into the NFL. Week 1 is sloppy, and they have 4 preseason games. Now, a lot of the starters don't play 4 preseason games, but week 1 is always sloppy. Well, at the NFL week 1, after 4 preseason games with guys who have been playing football their whole lives and are at the peak of ability, and they're the best in the world. If it's sloppy for them in week 1, we got a lot of penalties and that kind of stuff going on. What's it going to look like for you? So when we talk about begin with the end in mind, and you're right, if we're putting this plan together in June for a team that we're going to play at the end of August, beginning of September, they're not going to, and even if we played them last year, they're not going to look the same. There's going to be different featured players. There's going to be, the scheme may be the same, unless they're really, really, really just wacky, offensive system. You're probably going to be running a lot of base defense, You run your blitzes and everything, but you're going to be in kind of a base picture of what you look like. So the biggest thing in putting this together, offensively, defensively, special teams, and I'll add in, speed training, weight training. What do you want to look like right now as you start to look at that? When the ball is kicked off in week 1 in the first game, what is the identity that your team is going to have? Because that's what needs to show through in week 1. And if you don't know, like, this is why I hate the flavor of the week thing and changing all of everything for everybody, is like, if you don't know what your team is going to look like until you get the exchange film the Saturday before, maybe you get to catch them at a scrimmage a couple weeks before, but if you don't get the exchange film until the week before your first game, and that's when you decide who you are and what you look like, what are you doing until then? What are you doing? Like, we're just running the defense? Like, this is where we establish the identity. And so the very first thing is the identity. To begin with the end in mind, the end is when the ball is kicked off, who are we? And it's not, that can't be, a lot of times we talk about the end, begin with the end in mind. Like, obviously the end result we want from week 1 is a win. The end result that we want from the season is undefeated or playoffs. The end result that we want, but that all starts with when the ball is kicked off on week 1, we have to be who we want to be.
Yeah.
Now, we don't always nail it. And we gotta pivot and we gotta adjust. And that's part of coaching. There's injuries and I'm gonna send this email one day. Spirit Airlines went out of business, right?
Yeah.
I haven't dove deep into the reasons, but one of the things they said was Spirit Airlines went out of business because of high oil prices. If you didn't have a plan for oil prices to go up, you didn't have a business. You were white knuckling it every single day, just hoping. That's the same thing as, like, we don't have an identity and we're just depending on our one good player and coming up with a new game plan every single week. We are just straight white knuckling it through the season because we don't know who we are. We don't have a plan. We don't have a clue what we're doing. We're just hoping that all this stuff holds together and this kid doesn't get hurt, and we come up with a really good plan each week and the kids grasp it. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Sometimes we get our butts kicked. Sometimes the kid gets hurt and our season's over. Like, you've got to know who you want to be when the ball is kicked off. And you cannot plan your summer. You cannot plan your installs. You cannot plan your 3 days in helmets and 2 days in shoulder pads. You cannot plan your scrimmage, call sheets and scripts and all of this stuff. You cannot plan any of that if you don't know who you're going to be if you don't know who you plan to be when the ball is kicked off in the first game. And the important thing is it has nothing to do with them. We're not talking about preparing for them. Okay, there's an element to that, but I always thought the dumbest thing that we did, and we tried to do it year after year after year, is we would assign opponents, and we would go and we would, each coach would have like 3 games that they're going to break down, and they would come up with the game plan for that team. Those things were out the window.
Yeah.
We would do it in like, January or February or something like that, April. They were out the window by the time we got there. They hardly ever got used. We might pull an idea or something like that. It was just something to do for coaching. And I try to do it, off season. It's like we got to start doing something now. And it's like, it's not about them. You don't solve your own problems. You don't win when you focus on solving the problems that they're going to give you. When you have all of your own problems, you solve your own problems first. And that's what it's about, is what problems do we need to solve? What do we need to look like? Who are we going to be before week 1? If we get all that right, you won't get it all right. You won't be perfect. But if you get it pretty good, then, you go through, some people have scrimmages, some people don't, but you go through your camp, you go through everything else, and you're feeling pretty good, and you feel like your guys understand who they are, and you've got that part right because you had the right plan. Then you can put a little bit more when you get that exchange film for your week one opponent, and you can really say, this is who we know who we are. We can do a little bit more for them. If you don't have it right, then you're still going into week, you're still just very, very basic because you don't have a clue what you can do. So, I mean, that's what this is about. This is about us, not them. So that's why we can put together this plan right now. We can put together this plan right now because it's not about if they're going to, you may have some junk teams that like you don't know if they're going to be in a double wing or empty. And like putting together a game plan right now is stupid.
Yeah.
But your base defense is your base defense. And you could put that together and you can get your empty adjustments in and you can get your double wing adjustment in and you can know we get there. Again, I don't have to get the double wing adjustment in. I do want to have the empty checks in, but I can get there and I can say, look, it's spill, force, alley, stay in coverage. This is who we are. This is our ASCA. This is our alignment stance, key read assignment. We know who we are. We know what we're going to do. Now, you send us the film. We're going to watch it. We're going to come up with a plan, but ultimately we're going to do what we do. And that's the plan. That's what we're putting together right now is in week one, we're going to do what we do regardless of who you are.
I love that ideology too of you got to know where you want to be. We're talking about building out that for that week one opponent, like the end in mind. What do I want to show? What do I need to be on film? It's probably not a play like, we all look at the schedule and we go, hey, these are the should wins, could wins, need everything to go right to wins. What are we going to do to knock off one of those need everything to go right to wins, right? And maybe that's something you put in your back pocket. So you're probably not whipping that out week one. And I think it depends on offensively or defensively too. How you answer questions on offense should probably change a little bit from week to week. So, just getting your base stuff out there is great. Defensively, I like to be more sound there. That's where I like less options. OCs may think, hey, that's cool. That means I can game plan you, but sound defense is a sound defense. So it kind of is what it is. But what do you want to show? What is that? You talked about game plan a little bit. Even what's going on your script. Planning to execute week one or planning to go and play week one game doesn't have to mean like how are we handling their, and it can, how are we going to handle their speedy quarterback who we know is on their script.
Sure.
Yes, but that should be a part of your defense as like almost a check. Hey, we have the fast cat check, right? Like the dude can go and he's getting every single football because he's taking the snaps. That should be part of your system anyway. So really you're just installing a piece of your system there. But Joe, I love what you said. Your base defense doesn't really care what they look like. This is who we are. This is what we do. Here's a couple checks that we plan on running. It may not be the whole system yet. It may not be all the blitzes. It may not be everything, right? Just what do we expect to go out and look like in week one? So the second part here, I'm building out that game plan. Okay, so what are we doing different there? What are we starting now for that week one game plan versus, or when is that cutoff? I guess when we start really working it.
Well, ultimately, your actual game one plan is that we're putting that together as a normal weekly game plan. Obviously, we've figured out this is the identity. This is who we want to be. This is what we need to do. I always think you mentioned the could wins, the should wins, and the shouldn't wins. If we've got a should win, we better make sure offensively and defensively we don't have stupid stuff. Because the worst thing you can do, and a lot of times, by the way, that should win, you look at it and you go, it's a should win. You don't take into account the fact that they got a new coach, that they got a new player, they got a transfer or whatever. They may not be a should win. They may be a could win. They may not suck still. They also may not be world beaters that they were last year. They may have had graduation and be down a little bit. We don't really know who they are. I mean, obviously you have your dynasty type teams that you're just like, I know they're going to be really well coached and they've got a pipeline and all that sort of stuff. And like, they're going to be really good. But when we're building that, if you've got One of the things is if you've got a team on the schedule that's a should win or a could win, you want to make sure that you don't go out there and fumble the ball 6 times. You don't blow coverages left and right. So, you've got to consider those things. You also don't want to go out against that good team if you know that, hey, we're in a rebuild and they're defending state champions, and, you don't want to go out and get boat raced. You want to give
Right.
your team the best chance possible. So, like, I'm thinking about the things that I can do because it is a long season. And if I'm in a situation like you are, where the first game really doesn't impact what's going to happen in 10 weeks, we can make the playoff. We can do whatever this game and still make the playoffs and still be in the same position. Ultimately, this is a mentality game. This is a but it for all of us, almost all of us, that first week of the season is about mentality, and it's how we come out of it. Do we come out feeling really confident? Do we come out feeling really good? Do we come out going, yeah, we've got the right systems, we got the right, or do we come out with everybody going, we got to change the defense, we got to change the offense, we got to do this, we got to do that? We don't want that. So that's why we don't want to be overcomplicated in week one. We don't want to look at, again, we don't want to do flavor of the week. We don't want to look at we don't want to get the game film, and maybe you get 2 scrimmages from them. And again, everybody gets different things. You might get exchanges from last season if you don't have scrimmages. We usually get their first 2 scrimmages, or if they played a game before, if they played 0 week, we'll get that in the scrimmage, and we'll send them our 2 scrimmages. Or if we played 0 week, whatever the most recent 2 films that we can get them.
Right.
And the way the world is now, we all probably have all their film from last year. We have, we have whatever we can get. But again, just like you just mentioned it, what do we want to show? Like, what are you really learning about them from that scrimmage? Like, maybe they had a best player that they were just like, I'm not putting him out there. The number of times that we've had a player who was just like, yeah, he's not going to do that. And if you're like, say your quarterback is your free safety because he's the best player that you have. How many reps is he getting on defense in your scrimmages?
I mean, he needs to get a few, but
Not many. Yeah.
yeah.
Especially if he started 10 games last year. It's like, yeah, I ain't going to lose him for scrimmages, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you walk out there and you're like, we know we're going to be able to hit the seam routes because their free safety's playing 18 yards over top, and all of a sudden they got a dog sitting there at 12 yards who can play monkey in the middle and who can hammer both hashes, and you're like, oh, the seam route's not open. Like, like these are the things that you have to prepare for. And I mean, the thing is, if you built the entire plan around we're going to be able to nail seam routes, and all of a sudden there's this D1 stud standing over the middle, you're like, what are we going to do now? So that's why we have to have an identity. We didn't build everything around that. We go to page 2. It's no problem.
Yeah.
So as we build the game plan, what do we want to look like out there? If it's base and we just want to play, we want to play fast. What is the priority for your team in this week? That's where I would start with your game planning. What is our priority? Is this a must win? Where
Stealing my thunder.
I mean, it could be a must win. We've had games where it's like, look, we've only got 5 winnable games on the schedule, and the only way that we make, because we've got 2 5As, 2 4As, we're a 3A, we got 1 3A that's won 9 state championships, and it's like you look at the schedule and you go like, we've got 5 winnable games, and we probably need to win 4 or 5 to get in the playoffs, where we then go in to a situation where we can win some playoff games because we're playing the teams that match up with us.
Right.
But that week 1 game is like that's a winnable game, and they're like, dude, is that a must win? What does it look like? And again, if it's a must win, like what does must win look like? So as we start to build that game plan, you just need to first of all set the priority. What is the priority? What has to, like, I guess the way to think about it is what has to happen on that first Friday night for you to achieve the goal. Like, figure that out first, and then build everything around the priority. So we start with the end in mind. What is the priority? What is the thing that we must do? Base defense, just be sound. Don't beat ourselves. Or we're going to have to, unlock a couple big pressure plays and make some plays and make some turnovers and takeaways. So we want to put our focus there. Do we want to just not embarrass ourselves? And so we're going to make sure that the offense doesn't snap the ball until the play clock is almost gone, so that it's the shortest game possible, and we play some ball control. Like, what is the goal? Try to give ourselves just a shot at the end. Like, what is the goal? You're muted.
Sorry, I tried to die there. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I've
dude,
got something going too.
I said stole my thunder because that's exactly what I was thinking. And it really covers both pieces of this because that's how podcasts work. And this whole episode's about the same topic. But a lot of it depends on where your program is, right? If you're last year's reigning state champs and you scheduled some big dog so that you can go out and test your
Yeah.
kids, your week one might need to be a little more complicated. Right? You got a bunch of return start. In fact, let me just shout out the guy who's I know is doing this scenario, Brady Bradbury, who's a friend of the podcast, been a JDFB member for 6 or 7 years, just won the state championship last year, undefeated. And he goes off and schedules an Arkansas team that's like 3 classes bigger than him for his week 1 or 2 opponent. He's in a different level. His program's at a different place, right? So you mentioned, do we just need to go out and get maybe our only or one of our 3 or one of our 5 victories this year? Or do I don't care if we drop this game? I need to go out and test my kids. Those are 2 different places to be in. Weirdly enough, I honestly think simplification and not showing too much is still the answer, right? Can we go out and run the base really, really well against this team who should boat race us? I scheduled them on purpose, but now we got to go out and test ourselves, right? Sure, the coaches can make some in-game adjustments, and you keep pieces of the system. Hey, remember last year when we inverted cover 2, and yeah, like, fine, right? We can do that. But like you said, what is the actual goal? What helps you accomplish it? What are the priorities? And that should be what you're building out right now. Sometimes it's just getting that first victory of the year, right? And
Yeah,
it's what do we need to do to beat that team? Sometimes people don't care about the win loss. I think about Kenny, right? He doesn't give a crap if he wins or loses those first 3. He's got district on his mind, right? And
right.
but his program's in a place he can do that now because he's ran off some undefeated seasons and whatnot. So it really does depend on where you are. But I know for most of us, that first victory count, it matters. It may be recruiting the kids back to your own campus. It may be not losing the parents, not losing the admin. There's a ton of stuff that goes in. A big speech my admin gave me was like, your program sets the tone for the school year. If you go out and win a bunch of games, we have a great school year. If you go out and lose a bunch of games, we are playing catch up forever. So, some of that matters. Sometimes the pressure's on to go out and win those games.
Yeah, the idea that keep it simple, and obviously that's what we come back to all the time. But if you're a returning state champion, you've got your staff in line, you've got everything there. You should be able to, you've been just refining and sharpening, getting a couple guys ready to go who are maybe new, but most of your guys either played on the JV last year at the very least in the same system, or they were backups, got some playing time for you, were special teams contributors. You kind of know what you've got, and you can do more, obviously, when you're in that situation. If you're a new coach, if you've just taken over a program for the first time and you try to scheme your way to a win in week 1 by installing 28 exotic blitzes, 9 different coverages, that's going to set a tone. The tone that you don't want to set is confusion, disorganization. Here we go again.
No identity.
Same old, same old. It's the same team we've always been. New coach came in, said a lot of things, told us a lot of things, got us kind of believing a little bit. We just went out, we played our first game, and we look like the exact same team as last year. Nothing has changed. We still suck. You do not want that to happen. And so, I remember coming in. First of all, I'll give 2. My sophomore year as a high school player, we were, I think, 7-3 regular season. I think we lost the first round of the playoffs. We lost to Marietta. I know we lost to Marietta. I was a JV player, but we got the benefit of traveling, even though we knew we weren't going to play in a playoff game. We lost a close game, as I recall, and the season was over. But we were a very good team that year. Coach Lord, who was our head coach, has actually been on the podcast years and years ago. Coach Lord was an NFL coach in the NFL, coach with the Packers, coach with the Bears, coach with the Giants. Like he knew what he was doing. He had a program. He had been there for about 8 years since the school started, I think, in 1988, and this was 1996. So the next year, we played. I want to say it was the next year. New head coach, Coach Lord is gone. A lot of our starters are gone. But because of that success, we were playing in the kickoff classic, which was supposed to be in the Georgia Dome. And I want to say we're playing like Warner Robins or something. And that was the year that the Georgia Dome ceiling, or maybe the year after. I don't remember exactly what it was. What I know is that next year we were 1-9, and so you get the big game scheduled because of who you were the year before, but then we weren't very good.
Right.
We weren't the same team. And I honestly, I don't remember how that game went. I didn't play in it because I was still a JV player as a junior. I went to a very big high school, played with a lot of really good players, even on that team, multiple Division I players. But like, it wasn't the same. And if I was in that situation, if I was preparing for that situation, again, my coaches, I thought did a great job. I don't know, like, I don't remember the scenario exactly, but if you were in that situation where you're like, we're not that team, you go in there and you just try to be competitive so that like it doesn't, like, we don't want to have that realization, right? Like that, like, oh man, if you are the other one was we came into the program at Colonial Heights a few years ago, 3 wins in the last 4 wins in the last 3 seasons. They had a shortened, I think, 5 or 6 game schedule during the COVID year where they basically lost 40-0 in every single game, won the last game 40-30, but I mean, got destroyed. Defensively got destroyed every single week. Offensively got shut out a lot. And we lost that first game by 1 point. I think it was like 14-13 or something like that. And now that everybody was like, oh wow, like it's different. Now it didn't cure all the evils. Everybody wasn't all of a sudden just like confident in everything, but everybody was very excited about the new program and what we were doing and all that sort of stuff. And so we lost the game. My head coach and I were not used to losing, right? We come from winning we lost a lot early in our careers, but we had been used to winning the last few years. And people are, the kids are happy and the parents are like, we're just so happy and so just so elated at this loss that you guys had. And we're frustrated because we're like, stop saying that. Why are you happy right now? We lost. But looking back on it, we finished the season. We won 4 games that year, as many as the program won in the previous 3 years. We didn't have a complex game plan for week 1. And we ran a base 4-2. We ran a pretty base pistol power offense and trying to figure out what we had. And that allowed us to kind of just get a footing and to get a little buy-in. We lost the game. If we had tried to completely sell out, one of the things that I thought my head coach did a really good job of is we came in and he said, basically, we have a 5-year plan. And that means we don't have to win week 1. Don't sell out and fall flat on our face if it doesn't work week 1. Now, obviously, we wanted to win and we could have won the game. We're competitors and we're upset about it. But the plan was not from week 1, we got to win every single game. The plan was this is going to be a long process. And we might only win 1 game or no games this first year, but it's about establishing that, getting things established, getting how we practice and all those things established. And it ended up, and of course, we managed to have a winning season the next year for the first time in 17 years, back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in 37 years. The following year, we won a playoff game for the first time in school history, hosted a home playoff game for the first time in school history, won a playoff game for the first time in school history. All of those things, and you go back to week 1 and not trying to do too much out of the gate starts to set that expectation. So when you build the game plan for week 1, yeah, you're right. You got to know who you are. And you're probably also right that overcomplicating it is never going to be, it's what can we execute? And obviously I got to look and see, like, if they're going to play a ton of cover 0, I got to have different passing concepts in than if they're a cover 3 team, than if they're a quarters team. So that's going to change, but still just the base 5-step drop stuff. How are we going to tag it? It's still the base run game. Defensively, yeah, I might want to do a little bit more blitzing. I might need to adjust my coverage because they're a 2x2 team and I'm a cover 3 team. And so we got to have those double checks in. They might be, we talked about Coach Bradbury, Brady's got taught a great version of a special check for that we teach special in the 4-2-5, but Brady talked about how he adjusted to flood concepts. You might have a team that just lights it up with 3x1 flood concepts, and you've got to have this little bit more. And obviously this is coming. Maybe you can do it in 7-on-7, but you got to have that little, that little thing that, hey, I can't just sit in base check roll quarter half, because that flood concept will pick us apart on that, and they're going to do it all night. So I got to have this in. So you got to have those little things that you look at and you go, what do we need to take away when you get the film? That's what I'm going to look at when I get the film is, okay, what do I see that we got to take away that doesn't fit our base stuff.
Right.
And that's the little things, like you said, maybe I need an adjustment for this. They run a single wing. I got to have my unbalanced adjustment. That's something that should be going in anyway, but I got to have more than one unbalanced adjustment because they're going to be in it all night long. They run a double wing. I got to have our double wing defense that's in module 5 of the 425 defense, but obviously fits all of our systems. So I got to put that in because they're a double wing team. They're going to be in a spread. They're going to be in an empty all night. I got to put that in. But ultimately, most of what I install should be consistent. Should be about the identity and who we are.
For sure. Let's talk about practicing. So we've covered the building out that week 1 game plan. If we get into the practice, okay. So now, listen, this is, we're not going to tell anybody to break the rules and go practicing during the summer if you're not allowed to. But when fall camp comes around, which, by the way, Joe, you always talked about being like August 1st or before, and I thought that was psychotic. We're August 3rd this year. They backed it up a week. So we're getting closer and closer.
I hate the idea of starting before August 1st, but yeah.
Yeah. What are we doing with our players that during practice that makes them better at executing whatever the game plan we've decided is for our week 1 opponent?
Once we know what we want to look like on Friday night, we've probably, so there's a couple things here. At this point, if you've been working on your identity, and again, I know everybody's different. You might have only had 2 weeks of practice and then you've got to go play a game. Or you might have had 2 scrimmages already before this first game. And so where you're at is where you're at. But ultimately, the thing that I would really, really encourage is, as you put together your practice plan in week 1, is as much as possible, again, the focus is on solving internal problems, solving our own problems, execution, confidence, understanding, rather than worrying about what they do. And so all I'm going to do is, like, on defense, I'm still going to run the drills that are in the defensive drill system. On offense, I'm still going to run. By the way, somebody asked the other day about offensive drills, and I was like, I'm surely I've done a podcast. I guess we could do a podcast on offensive drills, but offensive drills are just a piece of the game.
Yeah.
So my quarterbacks and running backs are still doing exchange drill. My receivers are still working on their routes, and they're working on blocking the safety. That's what they're doing. Offense is just pieces of the game, right? Then the quarterbacks go and they throw with the receivers. They do 7-on-7. The offensive line is working through their base blocks, and then they're doing bird walking. It's just pieces of the game. Bird walk drill is in the pistol power offense system. That's probably the only one that's not just the most obvious, like just 2 pieces of the game. But when we, that's what we're working on and that's what we're doing, and we just move the emphasis a little bit more. So if I know that I'm playing a heavy gap scheme team, I'm playing a wing tee, I'm playing a power counter, I'm going to put a lot more investment with my defensive linemen into squeezing down blocks. And so I'm just going to tweak up those base drills. The drills aren't changing, but they are evolving. So my guard read drill is going to be, if I know that they're a gap scheme team, I'm going to start running the gap scheme guard that I have. I'm going to have a down block on the right side and a pull inside on the left side. And we're going to start to see that happening. And I might evolve that drill to add in a backfield where the in, out drill and the down and the guard read drill sort of combine. So they start to see that same thing on the umbrella. I'm going to start to work, instead of working the base umbrella drill with a cone out there. If I know that they're a 2x2 team, I'm going to start running umbrella drill with slot receivers standing out there so that we are seeing the distance and the space. And I'm going to start running bubbles instead of toss sweeps, right? They don't run toss sweep, but they run bubble. That's their outside run play. So I'm going to start in my drills. It's the same drills, but as we get into week 1, they start to evolve. My focus, which is at the top of the practice plan, and again, joedanielfootball.com/practice, download the free templates. At the top of the practice plan, I put the focus. That's the levers that we are pulling this week. So if I know that, hey, we went through our scrimmages and my guys are just not getting the guard read, my focus is on getting my guys to follow the guard read. It's not on stopping power.
Right.
We're not there. It's on getting the guard read right. What are the levers that I need to pull? If you are pulling the right levers, it'll solve, you've got problems right now. Brady might not go into week one with problems. I don't know how many guys graduated, how many coaches stay, or anything like that. Brady might not go into week one with a lot of personnel problems. Probably going to go in with some, but it might not be as much about him. And he runs a simple system, and he's been doing it for a few years.
Yeah, he does.
But and he got it started here. He might be a little bit more focused on what they do, but it's still all about if we can't do the basic stuff, what are the non-negotiables in your defense? What are the non-negotiables in your offensive positions? What are those things that you have to be able to do? Those are your focus. Those are your levers. And that's what you're working on in practice. And then you just evolve your 7-on-7. You run a script of some of the passing concepts that you've seen them run. But then you always have the things that are always in there. We always are going to run 4 verts because we would focus on that, work that hang technique no matter what. We're always going to show screens because screens are going to eat us alive the first time that our defensive linemen see them, no matter how many screen retraces that we do. We're always going to show those things because we want them to see it on Wednesday or Tuesday, not Friday for the first time,
right?
And start reacting to it. But yeah, so then it really goes into scripting your drills a little bit more and adjusting your drills to what you've seen them do on film. Obviously when I go to Birdwalk now, which Birdwalk is our best offensive line drill and most important offensive line drill that focuses on the footwork, communication, the footwork, and how we get there. Obviously now I'm going to start working their base defensive front. We'll talk about if they do twists and blitzes and how we're going to pick those up. But instead of, we've been out there going, okay, today, a lot of times in camp, we're going to work against our defense for a week so that we can go out and block them for that, first big day of team where we're all just running our stuff. And then maybe we're working against, I'll either alternate between running even and odd fronts and just showing different fronts so that they understand how it adjusts, or we'll start working on our scrimmage opponents. But now, obviously, we're starting to focus in on what they do. A couple of years ago, we had a team that the first week of the season, they had one guy. And all we did all week was number 2. And it was like, look, the first thing we need to do when we get out there, yeah, we're going to count 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're going to run power. We're going to run counter. But I'm going to tell you right now, we get up to the line of scrimmage, everybody needs to go ahead and identify where number 2 is. And we need to say, there's number 2. Because if we block number 2, the other 10 are not a problem. And we blocked number 2 just enough to get a 1-point win, I think. But
love it.
That was it. I mean, I think we won 14-13 or something like that. It was the same team, by the way, 4 years later. So, that was where the evolution was. We started focusing on, here's the, they're a 4-2. This is their best player. This is who we need to stop. This is what we need to take away. And then we start to script that, knowing that what we've seen may not be what we see because of what you said. How much do we want to show? How much do we want them to know? Did they go out in the 2 scrimmages that we got on film and just run the basics? And then they're going to come out. We didn't do it week 1, I think. I think we did it week 2, and it was a plan. We did not run and I think it was a plan because we didn't want to put it in. We decided week 2 we were going to put it in. We did not run our single wing stuff the first year in that game that we lost the first game of the season. We didn't put in our over front, or our not over front, we call it over, but our single wing front, our formation.
Right.
Week 2, we came out. We had a 220-pound quarterback who could run, but he'd never been a quarterback before. He was a defensive end, outside linebacker. So we came out and we didn't change the personnel because he was going to be the one that ran it. And we came out, we lined up in whatever we lined up with, we wound up in a Pro 2. And then we shifted, and they'd never seen it. And guess what they hadn't worked on? on balance checks. We ran it. I think we got about 20 yards. And we ran it again. We got about 20 yards. We scored on the first drive. And we kept running it until they could fix it. Here's the great thing about, playing. It was Parkview who isn't there anymore. They've merged, but really good football coach. But you know what you can't do at a small 3A or at a 2A school in Central Virginia? You can't talk to your defense because they're all out there on offense.
Right.
So, those are the things, but like, so those are the things we don't know. So we can't go so far into the game plan that we stop working on them, the basics that that are the core things that you don't see. So when I put together a script, I may have their scrimmages and they ran buck sweep, buck trap, rocket toss, counter, waggle. And obviously I'm going, okay, I need to stop buck sweeps their best play. I got to make sure we stop buck trap. I got to make sure we're in position to force the rocket. I got to make sure that we're working on our safety reads so that we don't get eaten alive on jumping up on a play action. Make sure my corner's staying in coverage. Those are the base things that we're going to do. But I'm going to make sure when I work that script, I'm going to put a screen in. Did they throw a screen? Absolutely not. Did they line up in red and blue? Yeah. So did they run 4 verticals? No, but we didn't run 4 verticals. Did they line up in a trips? No, but but maybe they didn't. I'm going to line up in that trips and I'm going to show that. So I'm going to show, so in that script is going to be a lot less exactly what we need. I'm going to make sure that in there are those teachable moments. I don't know if they'll do this, but I'm going to make sure that we work on it. So it's a little less just like full dive in, like this is what we got to do, and zeroing in on it. I'm going to be a little less able because I don't really have down and distance tendencies, so I'm not going to be as able to plan up. I don't have down and distance tendencies. I don't have situational tendencies, so I'm not going to be able to dial up my exotic blitzes as well because I don't know that this is a down that you like to throw, or I don't know that this is. I got ideas, but I can't be quite as specific on that stuff in the script. And so, but that's how we adjust it. It's really not much different than the original install week 1, other than we're just starting to look more like you running against us. And we're starting to do more of the things we know we're going to have to do in our drills than we were at the start. And we're scripting that way as well.
I think one big thing about, and you kind of touched on this, but they're going to probably expedite you in places that you may not have wanted to be, right? So me as an offensive play caller, I love to go empty. I love to go quads. I love to go whatever the hell you call 5 receivers on one side. I like to do dumb stuff. And defensive coordinators generally don't have that in yet week 1, right? So if you got to know kind of what is this team doing? So you start talking about practicing. And I love what you said, your script better. Sometimes late in season, we call it chasing ghosts. When it gets into district play, we call it chasing ghosts. Well, they've never thrown a screen. I have 14 games of them over the last year and then this year, and not once they throw a screen. You got to practice screen game anyway. It's just one of your drills that you really need to work on.
Yeah, I always throw those in because exact same thing. I've gone 3 weeks without seeing a single team that throws a screen, and then for the 4th week, we haven't worked on screens in 3 weeks.
That's right. So it didn't necessarily always for this team. It could be for the next team, right? But as you're getting ready for week 1, it's okay to chase a little bit of ghosts, I think. It's like you said, they haven't shown trips. You better look at it, okay? Because we played a team a couple of years ago that never showed anything but flex bone, wing tee, whatever the hell they were. And as soon as we got them down by 21 points, they were a 3x1 and 2x2. And like they completely went off script, right? And if we don't have, now, obviously that's an uncommon offense going to a very common offense. But sometimes you got to think about the opposite. If you go out and shut down their high flying, St. Louis Rams of the 90s offense, they might come out in some kind of a single wing. You talk about unbalanced checks. They might just pack the phone booth and get in there and just play some dirty football. So you've gone out and spent all week like, yeah, cool, 2x2, we got it. 3x1, we got it. Coach, I don't know how to react when there's 3 tight ends attached right now, right? You're right. You don't, because I didn't cover that. So I'm not saying that your week one opponent, you need to go out and plan for every single offense that exists. They're going to give you an idea, but there's some concepts in football like unbalanced. I don't care if it's one or three guys attached. Something looks weird. We acknowledge it and we make an adjustment. Maybe we burn a timeout the first time and talk about it, whatever. But our kids should know at minimum, hey, you don't have to worry about the center. Who's the guy in the center of the stinking formation, right? Or heck, we snapped the ball with our tight end one time, right? So like if the nose guard goes over and gets on the guy snapping the ball, they're in a very bad spot. So just having some simple concepts in like that can definitely save you, although it does expedite maybe your install schedule a little bit. But once again, we're kind of talking about you're preparing now for week one. So how much of your system do your kids need to understand before week one? You can't go out and maybe just run one coverage and one front and on offense, two formations and one run play. Like, what if what they're doing stops that? You better at least a power and counter or something, right? The opposite of having in your off coverage. 3 and 1 is great. Having in these little checks is great. I don't, and maybe that even kind of goes against what we said earlier, just being stupid simple. But I think you do have to observe if these are people who are going to try to expedite your install schedule or not.
Well, I think one of the things as we're preparing for week one, and you should already been doing this going all the way back into the beginning of camp install. You should have been doing this, in the off season, whenever you can, as soon as you can. We should be having defensive alignment periods every day. When you're not in pat, we used to try to figure out how to, what to do. Guys always hated the 3 days in helmets, and because we couldn't have contact, and we would try to, you got good athletic kids, they can play with no pads on, and they can whiz the hips and tag and not kill each other, and it works okay. And sometimes we did some really good things, but what's more valuable than that is just taking those days to work alignment, alignment, because we've talked about it over and over again. This is the simplest lever. This is the easiest lever. Bad alignments will get you beat 70%, 40%, whatever it is, depending on, how you're focusing on it. Those alignment mistakes are the things that are going to get you beat. So the biggest thing that you can do is do work on all this. One of the things that I would avoid in week one is a lot of automatic checks. I would be in the base defense a lot. I remember we had a team that they did some formation that they did, and they were running that formation a lot, whether it was the season before or in scrimmages and everything. But we had put in an automatic, and we spent a big chunk of the week on that automatic. And automatic is a certain, they line up in this formation or this look, and we're going to adjust to this front. We're going to run this blitz. We're going to check to this coverage. We're going to call it by what, the Tigers, whenever we see we're going to go, well, we wouldn't say Tiger because we use that as a blitz call, but, the Royals, and we're going to see if they come out, we're going to go Royals, 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 and all going to move and adjust to this whole thing. And we spent a big chunk of time on that. Well, they didn't run it that much. I think they ran it one time. We adjusted. That was it. Like, okay, cool. I guess, good. But we spent so much time on that. We weren't working on everything else. And so, I would tend to stay away from too many automatics or putting too much time into an automatic. And again, just be on your identity, but you've got to work formation adjustment. That should be a big part of what you do. Formation adjustment alignment. I think coaches get carried away with the assignment part of the ASCA. And they go, well, if they line up in this formation, we've got to change the coverage. We've got to change the this. We've got to check the that. It's like, if it's something, again, if it's something that they've shown 60 times in two scrimmages, then yeah, probably. If you
Right.
know that it's a, again, I would almost think about that as an adjustment, maybe if they actually do it rather than a initial game plan. But the biggest thing is if you get lined up right and you have a system, and again, our system adjusts that umbrella adjusts to everything. That umbrella will adjust to anything. And so as long as we get lined up right, the umbrella is intact. And then we can make adjustments as we go. We can pull levers in our ASCA with the assignment later, but we got lined up right. We didn't come out there and they lined up in something we hadn't seen, and we wasted a timeout. That happens a lot. A lot of times that's just what coaches want you to do. They put out a formation that you've never seen before in film, and all their, they got a play called, but they'll be happy if you just call a timeout, right? You just call a timeout and talk about it. Now you only got 2 and I got 3, so we're at advantage there. So it's like you've got to have that. That's a big part of camp install, but also in week 1 planning. Don't just abandon every other formation. Thursdays, I don't try to do any team defense. We do run team offense. We just use a quick whistle. But on Thursdays, I don't try to do any team defense on that Thursday practice before the game. It's all team formation alignment, making our checks, making our calls, identifying where that best player is. What do we expect to see out of this formation? Down and distance, what's the situation? All those things was what we're going to focus on. I would probably I would take things like the old rah-rah periods that I just, pursuit and swarm drills and all that sort of stuff. I would really think about canning that, or you can still do 1 or 2 reps and just like it's a thing. We started doing a lot of that. We did 1 or 2 reps of it, but it was 2 minutes. Use that time don't do it for 10 minutes. Use that time for formation alignment every day. That's a much more valuable use of it.
I think kind of the last piece here, and then we need to close out here as we're approaching time. But if you want to
We're both going to
practice,
talk to death too before it's over. So
yeah. If you want to practice to increase your execution on week 1, your drills, your practice schedule should make you really good at whatever their base stuff is. If they're going to come out and gap scheme you, linebackers better be chasing pulling guards this week, right? Or crashing a defensive ends better be squeezing down blocks. If they're going to come out and try to RPO you, then we're going to sit patient on the backside and in the fit, out of the fit type stuff. If they're going to try to forvert you, monkey in the middle for my cover 3 guys. That's what practice should look like. You should cover their base concepts, pass and run, and stop what they do best, because I bet they're thinking the same thing on offense. They don't want to come out and throw the whole playbook at you. They want to come out and do their 3 best things and hopefully get the win. And if not, hey, we looked really good, or we saw the flaw in our 3 best things, right? They're not generally trying to come out and run 5 run concepts, 10 pass concepts, 28 formations. That's not what Cameron Palmer might. That guy, he and love him. And I love the way he operates. He's going to expedite their install. Okay. But not everyone's like that. Not everyone has the ability to do that. So get really good at stopping whatever they're based. This week, I almost said more than any other. Every week that should be the concept, it should be the idea. But this week, like, that's what you're gonna get. So that's what practice should replicate, is what they're gonna see, 45 out of the 60 snaps on Friday night. All right, man. I think we checked all the boxes tonight. Remember, guys, every rep this summer matters, even the ones nobody outside the program ever sees. If this episode helped you approach the offseason grind, please do pass along on to another coach. We know that, some of you guys hear this and you love it and you buy all in. And sometimes you guys go, that's just not how we do things here. That's great too. Like that's the best part about football is you do it your way. You go out and get wins or don't, and life moves on. Tonight, we talk about preparing for a week 1 opponent. Begin with the end in mind. Build your game plan for week 1 and practice your players execute in week 1. Last week's topic, we talked about defensive drills. And next week, we're off to the priorities pyramid. It is now the level up time, Joe, and I'm excited to hear yours.
Funny thing is, I've been bouncing around about like different level ups and what I wanted to talk about. I did want to talk about 2.
Yeah.
So the first one's going to be real quick. I usually am responsible for the morning wake up time. My wife goes to work very early, so I get my son up and get him to school in the mornings, and then my wife usually takes bedtime. He also doesn't want daddy to do bedtime right now. Also, daddy makes bedtime a little more like, you got 2 books, walking out of here. He can get 4 or 5 out of mommy, so maybe why. But usually somewhere in there, I will be called in after about 4 books to come up and read a book. And so I just wanted to mention this one because I think the book was actually my wife's book. It has her name written in the, I think it was given to her when she was born or something like that. It's The Giving Tree, Shel Silverstein. Okay. And I've read it, but it's been 40 years. So not something I thought about. He wanted me to read that book the other day. I had not read it to him. I don't, it, one of those, we got 10,000 books. This one got pulled out finally.
Sorry to
Um,
add to your book collection.
huh?
I'm sorry, I added to your book collection. Your 10,000 books.
Yeah. And in those, like, I read, I'm like, you want a chapter? Like, yeah, because those are, I was like, read one. He's like, read this one. And I'm like, because he always wants the longest book. And he'll pull
Of
those
course.
out and be like, read this one. And I'm like, buddy, chapter.
Yeah.
Or chapter
The
2.
moon one was my favorite, I think. But anyway.
I don't know if I've gotten that one. Gotten to that one. Obviously, we'll be working on those. So The Giving Tree, I just thought, and I looked it up after. So if you don't know it, little boy plays on a tree. There's a tree. It's got leaves. He plays on it. It's got apples. He climbs the tree. He plays in the tree when he's a little boy, and then as he gets older, he's not coming to the tree. And the tree, the boy kind of walks in there, and the tree, he starts coming less and less, and he starts showing up with his girlfriend, and they carve, their names in the tree and everything like that. And he starts coming less and less. And the tree, every time he shows up at the tree as he gets older, as he's a young man, and then he's as a middle-aged man and an old man. And each time the tree, wants him to, climb me and play. And he says, I don't have time for that. I'm not able to do that right now, or I'm too old or whatever. Right now I need, well, he says, I need money. And the tree says, take my apples and sell them. You'll have money. Right. Then he says, I need a house. And he goes back later and he says, I need a house. And the tree says, take my branches and build a house. And the tree comes back, or he comes back, and he says, I'm old and I'm retired, and I want to go sail the world. And he says, take my trunk and build a canoe. And so all that's left is the stump. Right. And this got my son when it said the tree was, and each time he does it, the tree was happy, because the tree is making this person happy. And then it says, when he's a stump, it says, and the tree was happy, but not really. And my son's just like, why not really? Why not really? And I'm like he's fixated on this. So anyway, there's been like controversy of like, is this tree abuse or something like that? But like, or is it an abusive relationship? But really, I think that it's such a good book, because I think that football coaches, like, ultimately, and just in everything, it was about the tree just wanting to be useful.
Yeah.
And like, that's, I think the big thing is just being useful. And so as a coach, it's like, how can I be useful? How can my, like, I just really thought that was a really good, that was one that I was just like, this is, I want to share this. So there's a couple books that I really like. Give a Mouse a Cookie is another one. It's like a kid's book that I'm like, this is an important book. So if you've never read it, check it out, go through your kids' stuff, whatever. But I did want to talk about the other one that I did. So we got to take two here, because I don't want to forget the Giving Tree. I joined, as we've talked about, I've been doing a lot of fishing, but I've been getting more success, more bites, more catches, all that sort of stuff, bass fishing, just on little ponds here in Richmond. It's nothing big. I got a new casting reel. We talked about, I got a new casting reel, and I'm like, Daniel and I are the same way. Neither one of us can do anything halfway. So I'm looking at the YouTube videos and everything, and I'm like, this is not giving me what I want. All that I want right now is this new casting reel. I want to be able to stand on a bank with bushes all around me and put this thing under that tree or on that spot. I want to be able to put it, I'm not on a boat where I can, how do I put this thing where I want it and not get backlashes and all that sort of stuff, because I'm using a bait caster and I'm learning to do that. And the YouTube videos weren't hitting it for me. I wasn't getting what I wanted. And so I joined Bass University, because I was like, I know there's a thing out there. Like, nobody spends more dumb money than fishermen. So I know there's a thing out there, right? And so found it, joined it. Here's why it's a level up. Not because I'm learning how to catch. In fact, I didn't really find exactly what I was looking for there. I think it's got a lot of good stuff. Here's what I found, though. And this is what I'm looking at for my coaches and what I learned for JDFB, because we have a lot of good stuff too. I got in there, and yeah, there's a search function, but like, just give me onboard me. There's no path. There's no clear, when you step in, this is what you do. This is I walk in and all I want is casting, right? I want to see a playlist of videos that take me from first day with a bait caster, even though I've been doing it. I mean, I've been doing this since I was a little kid, right? But I want to start, show me first day, first move, and take me through the process and make me an advanced caster. That's what I want right now. And then I want one that says, here's where to find the fish. Now, they do have a little series on pond fishing, bank fishing. Okay. So that's there, but it wasn't organized like, so that we'd already been building this out for JDFB. And in fact, the first one is already built because it's going into the new 425 manual, which is going to be available soon, of these success paths, of these, you know, there's 9,000 videos, but go watch this one, 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 and this one. So at the end of it, you are a 425. Now, obviously, our 425 system, perfect, right? Great. Except it's 10 hours. You don't want 10 hours. I want to give you the 5, 10 videos that are going to get you to the next thing. And I know that coaches are coming in and like, I just want to get better linebackers. And like, I need to build that for them. I know that coaches are coming in and going, I just want to fix my offensive line. And like, we need to have go watch these things for offensive line. And so we're building it. This kind of confirmed it for me. I think it's got great stuff, by the way. Don't, check out Bass University. It's got a 7-day trial or whatever like that. I'm going to be watching it. I don't know if I'm going to stay after the trial or not because I don't know what to do. I don't know what but that's what we've been working on in JDFB. And, obviously the systems are the systems. But there's 700 videos in the Chalk Talk archives. And it's like, there's got to be a way to say, like, this is the ones to go watch.
For sure.
So it just helped me see, like, what's
lacking.
Yeah, well, it helped me, like, it put me in that mindset, and I think it's really good to do things other than what we always do. Like, if all I ever do is football, we do other things, and I show up in this thing, and this is where our coaches are. I know how to fish. I've been catching fish. I want to be better at catching fish. I don't need you to teach me fishing, like the basics of it, but I also don't need the 9,000 super advanced, like you were talking about. I don't need the 9,000 videos on what color and my like 16-foot depth, crankbait thing, whatever. I don't care. Like the thing's only 4 feet deep. I've already found the bass. I just want to be able to get the thing to them. This is where I'm at right now. I don't need the how to defend with 10,000 blitzes. I need the basic alignment. Like get me started and get me there. So just seeing like that's where I think a lot of our coaches are coming in. They don't need the super, super basic, but they need to know where to start and where to go next so that they can get the thing that they need. And we're coming in from all different places, but it was interesting to see it from that angle and see it. I felt like that was an important thing for me to see when you're teaching where people need to start.
Football is that way anyways, because there's so much out there that you sign up for one of these online treasure troves of football stuff, and then it is kind of like your first day walking into a fishing shop, and you're like, "There's 15,000 lures in here."
Right. Yeah, there's 36 aisles in Bass Pro, and I only know 2 of them.
Yeah, I went through them today.
Yeah.
Where do I find crappie jigs? That's 18 rows back there on the right. Jesus crap! What was in the first 7? Anyway, football can get there too, right? Like we all run inside zone different. We all count it different. We all block it different. We all like, what's the best personnel to do that? Is it right or to the left? Is the sun up? Is the sun down? There's a lot going on in football.
Just show them, like, if you come to JDFB, just show me how to run inside zone. Now we have that.
Yeah.
There's module 2 of the pistol power offense system. But like, that's what you're looking for. That's what you need. You don't need, 10,000 videos that are, like you said, all the super advanced techniques. Those are fun. Most of you don't need that.
Yeah. My level up is also fishing. I think we were both fishing last week as well. But, that's the season that we're in. And the season in life that I'm in right now is I have an 8-year-old who's I'm trying to teach all the things that he needs to know as an adult that maybe I didn't get taught as well, right? Like sports, no one taught me sports. I had coaches that taught me after I was already supposed to be kind of doing it at a high level. junior high, high school, whatever. And then fishing, no one ever. I did obviously we went trout lining last week with my dad, which was my level up, and that's what I know. Boy, I can trout line with the best of them. Bass fishing, throw. You talked about bait caster. Never thrown one in my life. Got to get there. I'm a spin reel all day long. Love it. Boat fishing. Never owned a boat.
Yep.
What the hell are we doing? So
Yeah, so we always fish from a boat, not the bank. So
yeah. I can
I'm
fish
like,
from
I
the
don't
bank
know
all
if I
day.
can't
I
just take a
cannot.
photo there.
I have no idea what I'm doing in a boat. I'm learning. So you see, I just realized my sunburn is really coming on. I even wore stuff, and I'm wearing my hooded shirt that I wore all day.
There you go.
We
All the
literally were
glory.
almost late to the podcast tonight because the family put the boat in last minute and got some family fishing time. But that has been my level up because it's so fun to go back to, just like baseball season for my oldest. This new fishing thing has been one, learning how to kind of plant the seed and don't overdo it and let him fall in love with it. He obviously has some interest there. He wouldn't be on the lake anyways. But then teaching concepts, teaching
Yeah.
small things. I got really lucky, Joe. So I grew up just like everyone else on a Zebco 33. Everyone on earth has thrown a Zebco 33. The push
Mhm.
button on the thumb, yeah, cast it. It's an old, I think that's actually called a spin bait reel. Yep, that's a Zebco. Everybody's done it.
I was always just
2
call it
years
Zebco, man.
ago,
Yeah.
I bought a Zebco 33 and didn't realize that they had made a new model, and I had no idea. But it is a spin reel, like a spinner mock-up. So there's no button push. It's actually on your fingers like you would grab the line on a spinning reel. It's still enclosed on top, so there's no, you're not gonna
Hmm.
get the backlashes and all that crap, but you just squeeze the brake instead of using it with your thumb, and when you throw, you release your fingers. So that's what I got to teach Beckett on that and how to cast, and which has been a very large part of this first week of fishing. It's as we're getting deeper into it. Like you said, you and I, I love that we're the same, but it's scary because it makes it okay for me to be the way that I am because Joe does it too. But I also bought him a 7 foot medium action or fast. Anyway, I got him a real bass reel and have let him work that today as well. Like, so that's my level up, is watching my son go through. And I hope, and we learned a lot from four-wheeler racing. You can't throw him on too big of a machine too fast. So I'm not teaching him big casts or any of that crap. He has yet to catch a fish, so he doesn't know what it feels like. So even like a spinner bait felt weird to him. He thought he was getting a hit the whole time, right? Nope, that's just the paddles or the spoons or whatever you want to call them. So my level up is putting all the things together I've learned over the last year of helping him learn and learn to love new things. And we're using it in fishing. But we are off the deep end. We are luckily my father and my father-in-law both have bass boats, so we're kind of never out of a boat, and we're gonna eat them up. And we may not catch a single. My wife caught a striper tonight. She's on the lake for 12 minutes.
Unbelievable.
Accidentally caught a fish. I've been out. Beckett and I went out. We kind of got on the water late, but from 9:30, 10 o'clock to we had to leave for a baby appointment, and then again this evening. And neither of us have even gotten a bite yet, so we're just doing the things. But anyway, that's our level up. Fishing has been awesome. It is great for family. It is great for me to learn something new, big for my brain because I'd gotten into a weird place where I was not, wanting to be uncomfortable anymore. I'm very uncomfortable learning how to
Yeah.
bass fish. I am with that. You talked about colors of baits, and that's where I'm at. Like I can
Yeah.
cast it. How do I catch the dadgum? How do I find them? How do I catch them? So
Yeah, see, I went the opposite. Well, I didn't go the opposite. I knew I wasn't gonna I started to get into all that, and then I got fortunate. I mentioned to you that I was blaming the equipment a lot, and then I figured out it was me because I got some better equipment and was like, "Huh, nothing changed." And that's where I started going and like, "Okay, now I can better." One of the things that's been good for me is I just fish the same pond. It's
mhm,
small and, conditions change a little bit, but they don't go far. And I fish some other ponds, but I fish one pond mainly and have learned kind of the spots there, at least for the spring.
for
They'll
sure.
probably change, but was able to have like, okay, I don't need all these things because I'm just fishing this little pond. And if I find them, I'm in the right spot.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, I guess it's time to start closing things out, Joe. Let's pay the bills one more time. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, go check out the free practice plan templates. We talked a lot about practice plans and putting those practice plans together so that you are getting to where you need to be. Start with the end in mind. You can download the free practice plan template. Go to joedanielfootball.com/practice. And it is the week of practice templates there for a basic game week. So go check that out.
Love it. Don't forget about Athletic Speed Movement. It is a great time to jump on board, get your guys as fast as you've ever seen them, be the fastest team you've ever put on a football field this year. Any sales that are opening and closing right now, Joe? What are people looking out for here the first to second week of June?
Off the top of my head, I don't think we've put together a June schedule. I know that the one that I can say for sure is the 4-2-5 defense manual right now. This will be, obviously this will be 10 days from now. So hopefully it is done. I finished all of the editing and updating. I mentioned adding in the success path for moving from the manual into JDFB. I added in, and everybody who's already purchased it in early access will get all of this added to their digital copies. Added in kind of objections that you're going to get from your staff, the most common things that the staff's going to tell you when you try to install this. We can't run cover 3. We need split field coverage. We can't run a 4-4-2 because we don't have 4 defensive linemen. Those kinds of things. The objections you get from your staff, and just giving you some ammunition for how to handle those. Added in a glossary so that if terms are new to you, you can look them up there, because again, football terminology isn't universal. Did some final editing. We're still doing some things with for the print version, the images, they don't look good in print, so we got to vectorize all of our images. Luckily, there's AI tools for that. I think we'll expedite that. So we should have the 4-2-5 available, not only coming out in the full release in the digital copy, the PDF, but also I know a lot of coaches like to get those print manuals and give them to your whole staff so that they can take them home and study them. We'll have that available, the print manual available soon. As well, I'm just started working on a audio version as well. So we'll have the full gamut for you. So be looking out for Coaching Football's 4-2-5 defense second edition, which is really just nothing like the first one. Quite honestly, it's complete rewrite. There's not a single word that wasn't rewritten as far as I know. So, but again, that'll be coming out here in June.
Love it. Social media wise, I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Joe, where are you at, sir?
I am Joe at joedanielfootball.com if you want to email me, and joedanielfootball.com. And of course, the podcast, if you want to watch the podcast in glorious 1080p, I guess. I don't think it's a 4K. You can go to YouTube, go to joedanielfootball.com/YouTube to watch the podcast there. You can see Daniel Sunburn and
it's pretty nice. It's getting worse.
Rob the Robot.
By the way, the new Mario movie, excellent.
Is it?
Yes.
I still haven't watched the first one. As much video games as I do, I don't know.
You got to watch them. They're super good. Star Fox is in this one.
Is he? I've been playing Star Fox 64 this last weekend.
Yeah, they brought Star Fox in. And my kid knows who Peppy Hare is and Slippy the Frog. And I was like, how do you know these names, dude? What are you talking about? He's like, Dad, I play games. Okay, got you. Falco. He knows Falco.
Yeah.
Anyway, podcast at the FBCP on Twitter/X. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher. If you've been listening for a while, please do leave a review wherever it is that you listen to this thing. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win.